Okay, everybody, it is Wednesday, June 11th, 2025, and our June 1st predicted date is really remarkable in um, the message I got from Jesus hearing October 19th. I'm going to go over that, and what happened on June 1st is nothing short of on the money. Perfect. First, I want to share with you my Mona Lisa's Little Secret book. I've been working with a publisher in London who's really good. And she we got me this book here was written by my wife Crystal and I way back when we lived in Sedona, and it was never published. Mona Lisa's Little Secret. And I was able to add incredible stuff to it because the Salvator Mundi painting of Jesus actually got featured in a major documentary, and the Salvator Mundi painting clearly is one of the largest purchases of a single painting in the history of the world. So both paintings, it's really remarkable to me that both paintings, the Salvator Mundi and the Mona Lisa, have this magnetism about them that is just so remarkable. And what we go through in the book is that the Mona Lisa is actually Mary Magdalene on the front and Jesus is behind her. This was revealed in a little known X-ray done by the Canadian government that was kept very quiet. And in the Salvator Mundi painting, inversely, Jesus, Isa is on the front and Mary Magdalene is behind. So it shows the unification and the marriage of Jesus and Mary Magdalene. And so what's in this book is really, really incredible. So just wanted to put that out there. So what we're going to talk about today, and this is really big what's happened, is the June 1st event, June 1st, 2nd, and going back to the original experience where Jesus appeared audibly. And when there's a real apparition of a supremely enlightened being, to say the very least about him, is there is, first of all, presence. And this, of course, this occurred October 19th, 2024, this past October. Hearing his voice and knowing how rare, it's not like a psychic who claims that they can talk to Jesus at any time they want. This is actually him waking me up from my sleep just in the wee hours, coming just past midnight from the 18th into the 19th of October, and telling me to make these calculations. And the first calculation was plus from October 19th, 432 days, and I came to Christmas. And that alone is remarkable enough. And then when he told me to add a Venus orbit, which is 225 days, I came to June 1st. And we're going to go into the huge solar event, what happened in Russia, and now the what's building with bringing in the National Guard to the southern United States. This morning, the National Guard is being activated in Texas as well, so the stage is being set for something huge. So this was the calculation. And of course, June 1st is the Ascension Day of Jesus this year, 2025. There were two dates for the Ascension this year, which is quite strange, May the 29th and June the 1st. So the next calculation was Crystal's 591 days. Notice the year is 2026, but I'm at June 2nd. So I'm clearly inside of the Ascension date window. And the Ascension date is when the Ascension planet 139 actually comes into play on the Earth. And as demonstrated before, the massive power outage in Spain and Portugal was at 26 degrees to the west, the setting position of planet 139, and also one of the most common days for Easter when it occurred. Um, and so that's duly noted. Then when I subtract 139 and a half days from October 19th, I come to June 1st again. I think this is just incredible. I mean, it just shows you how perfect these numbers are for the orbits of the planets of the angels. I mean, how could I come to June 1st again? I mean, he's telling me to do this in my ear. And I memorized it and got up really early and did the calculations and archived them. And it's just unbelievable. And then the 956 days, which is according to the planet of the angels again at the 956-day position. I'm just going to check which one that is. So we have it for the record. It is right here. I'll keep this graphic. 956 days is virtues. And that's where we've been on the frequency list. So we're about to go to thrones. This coming week we'll be shifting frequencies to the Earth to thrones frequencies, which is the seventh position in the heavens. And we'll be spending 2 weeks there. So this number here that you're seeing on the screen is virtues. And it again took us, I mean, how could the orbits of all these planets, now, of course, the year is 2028, but I'm at June 1st again. I mean, I don't even really know how and why this works. And of course, these numbers are given to me by the voice of Jesus, and they all work because they all land within 1 to 2 days of each other. So the point is, what happened on June 1st, and I want to go through this really clearly for the record. I'm going to have to pull up my I emailed myself all these documents this morning. Here they are. Okay. This is when it first broke. This slide here is that a major solar flare and halocene is reported that there is this huge 3-hour explosion on the sun. This is what's unprecedented. It's not an X-class flare, but it's going to do more than an X-class flare on the Earth when it hits the Earth. So it has to do with the classification in the K index of how strong the storm hits the Earth. So, of course, solar flares are common. Direct hits to the Earth are not. And you see this explosion here is nearly centerline to the Earth. When these explosions occur, because the sun is rotating, it's rotating. And as it rotates, once around, that when the sunspots align with the Earth, and we're in sun cycle 25 right now, depending on where that sunspot lines up with the Earth, determines whether it will hit us effectively dead on. So this flare was the 29th of May at 5 minutes at Universal Time Code, and it was an M8.2, so it's almost an X. But what makes it so huge is its duration, is that it's an explosion lasting 3 hours. Now, in all my years of watching solar events, this is what makes it so powerful to line up, because it says the CME is heading straight for Earth, see below. NASA and NOAA models agree that it will strike Earth on June 1st. This is incredible. It's incredible. And at first when I saw the news, I thought, is this what Jesus meant by June 1st? Is this it? Is he just demonstrating that there's not the sun is not operating in a random fashion, but it is operating in a coherent fashion, that the consciousness of Jesus is at one with, which again signifies being a god of the sun, or a sun god, or a god who either is telling the sun what to do, or that just knows exactly what the sun's going to do and be able to predict it in advance. I mean, this is a huge prediction in advance of the time period. And also, May 31st, you're inside of the Ascension window, because this year Ascension Day was May the 29th to June 1st. So there's a window. Probably the reason there's two dates is it's this year is not only the two different churches, but also the fact that the window of ascension is open. This can also signify that when Jesus actually ascended in front of the 11 disciples, when they saw him go up into the description in the Bible is that Jesus went up into a cloud. But when I researched the true word for cloud in the ancient Greek, which it was written in, it actually is a word that resembles Nephilim, which the Greeks borrowed from the Sumerians, which really means ascended God. And it's a word, Nephilim, that is used to describe a particular Greek deity. So that gets translated into Latin and English just to mean cloud, and takes away the whole part of what it really means. So the question is, of course, when you see a being go up and he's greeted by beings wearing white, it says in the Bible, and that's where you get this idea of clouds. So a lot of Christians just think he went up into the clouds and he lives in the clouds, which is really ludicrous, because, what are you going to do floating around the clouds? Because the clouds are changing literally by the second and the minute. So this is it. Um, then I'm going to get my next screenshot. So here is the hit. And this is the Space Weather Prediction Center, NOAA. This is June 1st right here. And this, if you look at the chart below, the K index was so high, literally at maximum levels. Like in my life, you don't see a K index higher than this, which is 8. 9 is really just there for an impossible ceiling event, but this is maximum. And it says, what can happen in a maximum event are a massive disruption of communication systems and radios. And of course, strangely, none of that happened. So to me, this is a major Kundalini activation, spiritual life force energy activation, because the Earth is going to get hit by a 3-hour peak explosion. So normally on previous solar flares that reach the X mark, these spikes will be very short-lived when the Earth gets ionized by the radiation. And you can see here, because this is see, the date is right here, June 2nd. So this is June 2nd, and we also got into the orange, which is a K index of 7, right? And I'm going to show you what a normal, like right now, today it's all down in the green. Like it's way down in the below K5 level right here. So this is a maximum event that lined up perfectly. And maybe Jesus is just doing this. I mean, of course, would have been great if UFOs landed on the Earth and all these gods came out and told us, on June 1st or something like the second coming. But what the real purpose of the message to me is, one, is to show that I'm really speaking to him, and two, that this 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 harmonic and cycle in the solar system is attuned to 432. We talked about 432. We also talked about how the Washington Monument in this circle is tuned to 432, and that our sun's diameter is 432,000 mile radius. I mean, let me just double check that. So I can make, just for the record, when I'm making these videos, sun's radius in miles is 432,690 miles. So it's interesting. Also, let me just stop share, reshare. It's important because this is the number one of the numbers he gave me is the starting from October 19th to 432. And so that might already be pointing to, in his language, that something's going to happen with the sun on June 1st, that is based on a harmonic of October 19th to this number. This also establishes that October 19th is a very powerful axial position on the current calendar, the Gregorian calendar that we're on right now. So when I come back to my items here, right here. So there we go. This is what we're seeing. And this is another graphic of the level of storm. You can see the warning, CME passage continues, G3, G4. Now this is a different category of noting the power and the magnitude that was hitting us on June the 1st. So it was an enormous, and you have to understand, when energy of this magnitude hits the Earth, it's going to have a component in the natural and the physical structure of the Earth, because when energy reaches a target, it causes a reaction. Every action has a reaction. So when energy transfers itself, there's going to be a reaction. And so that's setting the stage for what starts to happen politically on the Earth. And in fact, before I go to let me go to my next slides first. So what happened here is, let me just go back to this K index. This is the perfect alignment. This is my calendar down here. This is June 1st here. This is May 31st here. So May 31st is when the event happened on the sun, but it didn't reach the Earth yet. Here is your maximum position at a K index of 8. And you're still between 7 and 8 here. And then even these orange bars are extremely powerful transfers of energy. And this is what it was like on my back porch. Now, I want to tell you what happened to me, because I actually didn't think the solar storm was going to be that big of a deal on the Earth visually. It turned out the auroras were seen all the way to New Mexico and Texas, which again never happens. These are extremely rare events. We had one last year that reached the same level of auroras, but the event on the sun was much smaller, meaning it was not a 3-hour explosion. So what happened to me is I was asleep and I was out of body, and I'm looking down at my truck parked in front of the house, and I see all these colors shimmering in the truck, and I got in my body. I said, "You better get up and go outside because it's happening." And I go outside, and it lasted for incredibly long period of time. I look up, and there's these waves. It's like a conversation and conversational language in the pulses and the waves. And they were green to blue hues. And then when it got really intense at one point, I had this purple beam come down here. And it looks, and this is with my new Nikon. This is not my cell phone here. This is a professional camera. This is what it looked like to the north. And these are moving, and some of the movements are quite fast. And when they're really fast, you get this feeling that you're listening to an actual conversation. Like I was so transfixed that I have a ladder that goes up to my second story roof, and I found myself at the top of the ladder in the dark, which is kind of scary because I'm looking up, and as tired as I was, because this is the, I forget the time in the morning this was. What interests me, the previous solar event we had, which was not as big here as this one was, but it was still spectacular. It was still spectacular. That happened last year. Um, is that I am taken out of body in this one, and I'm seeing it out of body. This did not happen on the first one, and I don't know by what force. It's not like I consciously projected myself out. It's like something, or I could say Jesus took me out and wanted me to confirm the June 1st calculation was really happening. Because when I was out of body, there's a presence that is unmistakable and remarkable in consciousness. And you can't put words on what that feels like. So I'm out there taking pictures. I have a lot of pictures. I mean, this is just a couple of them, right? And this picture on space weather here, saying the storm is subsiding. As predicted, a halo CME struck Earth on June 1st, sparking a severe G4 geomatic storm. It was one of the biggest weather events of solar cycle 25. Now, you have to understand, solar cycle 25 is an 11 to 12 year cycle, which is interestingly equal to the harmonic of the cycle that it takes the planet Jupiter to orbit around the Earth. A solar cycle is pretty close. It's probably greater than 97% in harmony with the cycle of Jupiter, which I want to note that because I don't think any astronomer has ever noticed that. So when they say the biggest space weather events of solar cycle 25, and again, the fact that the storm, the explosion lasted 3 hours. Look, this was in Alberta, Canada, and I actually got my images posted on the space weather site. I loaded them up there, so they're, historically, in the archive. So now we go to the next major piece of news, and this is really big. This is really huge. There we go. And this comes in. I'm just going to brief this first and then go to my pyramid lines. So this news came to my attention because of Carrie Cassidy. I was on Carrie Cassidy's show, and notice the date, May the 29th. That is the first date of Jesus' ascension date for the year. And notice the date of publication is 11:11 a.m. This is when this was published. Look at this. Now, what this is a new object. Notice the diameter of the object is 430 miles across. How close is that to 432? I mean, it could easily be 432 miles across. And remember, Jesus gives me the number 432 to make the calculation. This is a new planet discovered out it's a trans-Neptunian object. So it's in the vicinity of Neptune. And why is that important? Because all of my calculations from the Great Pyramid of Egypt to multiple sites of Mary Magdalene and the Mother Mary point to a harmonic of an orbit near Neptune. And I'm going to demonstrate that in a minute. So this news arrives into human consciousness on the 29th of May. I mean, it's Jesus' Ascension Day, and it's 430 miles across. Now, when I calculated the frequency of a sphere at 430 miles across, it's about 100 and almost 138 hertz. Remember, planet 139 is 139. So the actual frequency, I'm going to be able to tune us. I mean, this is really a big deal because at this point, I thought, after the August break, I was going to have nothing for next year, and I was just going to say, well, we did it. But I know the secret now. I know where God's bases and the goddess bases are physically positioned in the solar system. And I know how to get not only to this object, but I know how to get to the Neptune gateway. And there's another position on Mars. And I know where that is now because I remote viewed it through consciousness. So we actually have a total of three really, um, there's actually more than that. There's a lot for next year, just letting you know in advance. So, I mean, how could nobody notice this? How can nobody notice this? This piece of news just goes flashing by. And what my remote viewing of this position has told me about it is that it is a station out near the orbit of Neptune that is the jumping position to in our solar system to the upper nine angelic positions.
I think I want to try take a chance at your question, how to notice it. It's kind of like how the Dead Sea Scrolls were found, and a lot of other scrolls that were found in the 40s. That how did no one find it? Well, someone had to be at a certain vibration at a certain time to be able to receive that and to find those scrolls. So you yourself are now receiving and seeing these because you are at the vibration and to be able to then again with the rest of the world and stuff. So that's how I'm thinking about that.
Well, you're right, Dennis. Yeah, I mean, not only the Dead Sea Scrolls, but the Nag Hammadi scrolls
Right, right,
those were
yeah.
discovered in 1945 in Nag Hammadi, Egypt, by a young boy, and his name was Muhammad Ali, which is a very common Muslim name. And it's interesting, of course, it's Egypt where these early Christians buried these manuscripts because the Romans were trying to burn all evidence of Jesus's existence. They not only, crucified him and most of his apostles, but they were exterminating the literature. And of course, the burning of the great libraries at Alexandria is part of in consciousness trying to eradicate evidence, and so that the world becomes much more subservient to the current consciousness of the order of the Romans was to worship us as the embodiment of the gods. You're the subjects, you're the slaves, and we're your rulers. So something has to happen in consciousness just to notice it. But yeah, you're right. You have to be at a certain frequency to even notice it. And then when the discovery, reached the Americas and was translated in American universities at Princeton and Claremont, the Nag Hammadi scriptures and the Dead Sea Scrolls, again, the common Christian would just ignore it. They wouldn't read it because if their pastor didn't say these were the words of Jesus Christ, they wouldn't read it. So this particular discovery here has a paper attached to it. So it's within the orbit of Neptune. Now, here's what's interesting in the paper. let me go to the actual paper. And are you seeing this? I might have to re-screen share. I'm not sure. Let's see. I probably have.
We're seeing it.
I just don't know if my screen share is seeing my changes. Okay, this is the actual paper, and here's its orbit. You see, so here's the green here that you see. Let me just see if I can make this go bigger. Yeah, let's go bigger here. You see, the green is the orbit of Neptune. Pluto is the orange line. And then here's the blue is our incoming, right? This is our I'll call it planet 432. I may as well. And it has this super long elliptical orbit. So it's only in apparently the extreme orbit, which takes the object approximately 25,000 years to complete, right? Suggest a complex history of gravitational interactions. And this is they wrote its diameter in kilometers here, which translates to the 432 miles. It's extremely close. 2,377. The diameter of Pluto is 2,377. So this is apparently a third the size of Pluto. So really, it's the size of a Jupiter's, like, actually the diameter of Mercury is way bigger than this, because Mercury's radius is I don't have that number in front of me. I don't want to quote it and make a mistake. But I know Mercury's way bigger than this thing. So this thing is almost like some type of super powerful harmonic moon. But it's not a moon. It's an actual planet because it's not bound gravitationally to Neptune, right? It's not bound gravitationally to Neptune, which is really important. Why? I'll show you in a minute. So it has this really long orbit. Its current position in the orbit is what really interests me right now, is where is it? And why is it suddenly coming into human consciousness now and at play? Right? Again, when things are first discovered and then they enter the media, the arena of human consciousness, that date matters. And that date in this case is the 29th of May, which is, I mean, could even be planned in the world of the great, the world of astronomers, and knowing this is within the ascension. This is the ascension date of Jesus, actually, May 29th and June 1st. So are they calling it a Planet X or Planet 9? This clustering has been interpreted as indirect evidence for the existence of another planet in the solar system. So they're not calling it. Remember, Pluto was excommunicated as a planet, and they're saying that this might be an actual planet. I guarantee you they know way more about this than they're telling us. Way more about this. So let me go now to my positions in my Earth Google map. There we go. And I was wondering why. So Neptune, when I did the harmony of the order calculations, which is the distance from the Great Pyramid to the target, divided by the golden ratio repeatedly, I can see which planets are in the highest harmony. But the first thing I want to note is the Virgin Mary, or mysterious holy woman, Mother, we call her Mother Mary because she might actually be Mary Magdalene, believe it or not, who appeared in the church, the Coptic Church, in 1968 for a period of nearly 3 years. Now, I want to point this out too, because in these apparitions, the distance, remember, at resurrection angle, which is between 38 and 39 degrees, so she's appearing there. The harmony of the distance to the Great Pyramid to the Zaytun Church is just beyond the orbit of Neptune. Okay, so that's duly noted. Now, when I take that same angle and I go all the way to the Mary Magdalene family synagogue, is what it really was, at the Sea of Galilee, where Jesus appears at resurrection angle to the apostles 3 times in this region within resurrection angle. And what's amazing about this is the distance to this position. In, again, my scale is feet, so I go over here and I change this to feet, and I take that number. I'm just going to do it really quick on my calculator, and I'm not, remember, I have to subtract the 8 inches per mile, so 1,714,355 feet. And convert that to miles. Miles. 324.68. So I have to subtract my 8 inches per mile. So 324. You probably can't see my calculator. Times 8 divided by 12. So I'm going to subtract 216 feet. 216 is a harmonic, by the way, because 216 times 2 is 432. Okay, so I'm going to put my feet in there, minus 216. I'm going to show you my calculator in a minute. Divided by 1.618. And then there it is. So the highest harmony, I'm just going to get my number and show you this. Neptune is 60189. Okay, there you go. So I'm going to go back to stop share my calculator. So this is when I see Neptune. So what is the harmony? I see this number 59,000. So divided by 60189, I'm at 98% harmony of Neptune. You can't get better than that. When I see Neptune, the rest of the planets are, because Neptune is in its own harmony. Remember, Neptune to Earth's orbit is in perfect harmony to the Ark of the Covenant ratio, which is a Fibonacci 3-5 ratio. So when I take a long calculation like that to Mary Magdalene Synagogue and I see 98% Neptune, all my other planets are not going to be in harmony. They're going to be 80% or lower. So that means that position is in harmony to Neptune. Remember, I'm on the same angle. Let's go back to my angles in Google Earth. And then go back to my angles. I'm on the same angle, resurrection angle, as the Zaytun Church. And the Zaytun Church apparitions, which again is resurrection angle. You see here, where the Mother Mary appeared for a period of nearly 3 years. Now, here's what's interesting. Guess what the last date of her apparitions was? In 1971. So watch this. New window, Zaytun apparitions. She appeared, her last date was May the 29th, 1970. Holy cow. Do you know that that date is predicting May the 29th? The news broke of this trans-Neptunian planet, but way in the future, in the year 2025, which would happen to be Jesus' Ascension Day in 2025, as well as June 1st. So, do you see how perfect this is? She's appeared at resurrection angle. Her position is beyond the orbit of Neptune, just a tad. And the harmony of the order of that position actually is really good. I mean, her position is so perfect in the calculation on the Zaytun Church. I can see the harmony of all the other planets. And she's just beyond the orbit of Neptune. And then we have the harmony of the order for Mary Magdalene and the position Jesus appears in the resurrection at, in the Sea of Galilee 3 times, is in harmony with Neptune. This is why Neptune is so important. Now, it turns out, for the record, when I did the calculations to Alexander the Great and Mount Olympus in Greece, I got Neptune. And those calculations are those lines I have in here somewhere, or they might be on a different map. But anyway, I did the calculations. We did it, and I thought, why am I getting Neptune all the time? This is putting absolute importance on Neptune. And then, of course, I have to look at my super long calculation here to the position of where Juan Diego sees the Mother Mary appear at Tepeyac Hill. And I have to actually do that calculation. This one, I just have to add this many feet. I have to add 120,000 feet to 40 million feet. I haven't done this calculation yet, but I'll do it and get back to you on this one because I'm pretty sure the harmony of the order of the pyramid of the sun that my resurrection angle to the west lined up with, which is remarkable enough. And then Tepeyac Hill, where Juan Diego sees the mother for the first time on winter solstice in the year 1531. We were on the Julian calendar. So back then, winter solstice was December 12th, which is now December 22nd. That's because our calendar is off every so many hundred years. It goes off. So that has to be done. So the point is, we are seeing the harmony of the order of Neptune in these calculations. So it's putting an enormous importance on something very secretive happening in Neptune. And now, of course, we have this new transit Neptune object, and the calculation we will be able to do that frequency within us and see what is revealed in the sense of consciousness and remote viewing. I mean, this is just incredible. Now, the other point I want to make, because we have 15 minutes left, is that what else happened On June 1st and 2nd was a Pearl Harbor attack, what they call a Pearl Harbor attack by Ukraine on Russia. And this is the weight. I mean, this is USA Today. Here it is. Note the date of this attack on Russia's nuclear bomber fleet infrastructure. They're using the word Pearl Harbor because the drone strike that occurred on the 1st and 2nd of June, notice the date is June 2nd here, again, within the calculation date. So you're seeing a lot happening, and this was obviously planned to be June 1st, which knowingly whomever did this attack, because there's some speculation that it wasn't Ukraine at all, but it is being planned on the Ascension Day of Jesus. Just like the strike on bin Laden, which we already covered in the circle. So I mean, this was an enormous attack. It did over $7 billion in damage to Russian strategic nuclear capable bombers. This is enormous. In fact, we would have, based on all the threats from Putin, we would have expected a nuclear strike or a tactical use, much smaller nuclear weapons by Russia on Ukraine in response to this. Definitely, we would have expected that. And the reason Putin cannot use nuclear weapons in Ukraine is he will disable that land from being productive for agriculture and for humans to live there. The amount of work it took for Hiroshima and Nagasaki to reclaim the land, they had to remove the topsoil and dump it out at sea and bring in new topsoil for the entire area to reclaim the regions of Hiroshima and Nagasaki from the nuclear radiation, because the nuclear radiation and the uranium isotopes, plutonium isotopes that have residue in the soil after a nuclear strike will last for millions. The half-lives are so long, depending on the exact molecule, the radiation lasts for millions to billions of years. Billions. So that means there's no way to use that land ever again unless you remove all the topsoil, and you have to put it somewhere. And when strikes happen deep within an interior of a country like Ukraine, and you have a long access to where you're going to dump it. If you dump it in the ocean, you're going to cause mutation in all of the marine life, the fish, and literally the ecostructure of the ocean. So I highly doubt Putin, if he really wants these territories, is ever going to use a nuclear weapon. But this, based on his threats, this would have beckoned a nuclear response to cause that much damage to his bomber fleet. Again, the date is June the 1st. So we're seeing now, with that enormous wave of energy, this morning, the National Guard is now being activated in California and Texas, and most likely Florida. And if you really understand what's going on there, it's way deeper than what the news is reporting, because it signifies a takeover of the southern United States by an increasing population that was not invited peacefully to live there. So we'll see what happens. Anyway, with that, it's very important. We are now switching frequencies. We're switching to, let me bring up my chart here so that everybody knows. So we've been doing virtues. We've been doing virtues, actually. So we're now on dominions. We're at position 591. So we're going to be doing dominions for 2 weeks. Here we go. So you can see that again, it's in the Google Drive queue to be doing those frequencies. I mean, some days I don't do the frequencies and I do them, but I'm doing them probably, 90% of the time. 2 weeks is a long time to work with it. It doesn't take that long to get your nervous system tuned to this position. So here we are. We're back to the 591 position. All right, everybody. With that, have a great week, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.